G'day guys, welcome back to the HQ Barra. So we got it this morning, got the HQ up in the air and had a really good look around underneath it. Had a really good go around everything that's going to have to happen. Pretty much from where we had it in the last episode, it is going to have to come forward just a little bit. We also found that the radiator that we ordered is not really... It's not the wrong radiator, but it's definitely not ideal. So we ordered another one this morning. Hopefully it gets here ASAP so that it's here for when it goes to fabrication. So we pulled the engine back out. The next thing that Rex really needs to do before we can continue is to start getting this sump pretty much welded up. We are waiting on some new alley welding rods or filler rod, which we think should be a lot better for welding this sort of cast, which we've been waiting for a little while. We're really hoping that they would be here this morning, but they're not. So we're going to leave the big piece out until the new rods get here because we think it's going to be a lot better, but we really need this piece welded in here so that we can continue and actually get this engine mounted up where it needs to be. So Rex is going to weld this little bit in and just persist with the alley filler rod that we have. We've used it before, it does work, just that we reckon this new stuff we've ordered is going to be better. As much clearance as we're ever going to get on this sump, and that's really going to start determining where we start building our mounts in. While it was in there before we pulled it out, we did a little bit of looking around at all, just pretty much making ideas of how we're actually going to make these mounts, and with the rest of the kit that they supply with these and just relocating these on the actual faces, they're going to be awesome. It's actually really cool how it's worked out that the width of these stock mounts on the Crossmember are very similar to the width of these on the mounts, so we can position these exactly over the top of the mounts on the Crossmember, and it's actually going to be quite a simple process to build these engine mounts, which is awesome. So that's where we're at. It's a lengthy process, but we'll document it as we go. Alrighty, bit of alley welding. Getting better at it?
Getting there.
A lot better than me.
I've seen a lot worse. I'm glad this is like the fab that's under the car that no one will see, so that's alright. They'll see Ryan's really nice fab work at the top. That's
ready to go back in once again, but this time with blank blocks for our engine mounts ready to be welded where they are required.
blank plates.
Let's get it. Now that we have a very good idea of exactly where the engine is going to be situated, which is right where it is right now, we can start to find all of the other issues that are going to be presented as far as fitting everything where we need to fit. First thing we have found is just trying to sort of fit the 6-boost manifold in here, is that this brake bias, brake distribution block is very much in the way. It's not a big deal. It can pretty easily be manipulated and moved. Another obvious one that you can see is our alternator. It's not going to fit where the bloody power, where the steering box is. This steering box will be getting swapped out for a power steering box as well. We are putting power steering on this thing. That is the plan. So obviously that's going to have to move. Now, the best solution that we can see is that there are a few people, Castle Main Rod Shop actually make one, is a relocation kit to relocate the alternator up to where the power steering pump normally would be. And then obviously if we did this, we'd have to put an idler down here to keep the belt route right, and we would then have to go to something like an Astra power steering pump, electric power steering pump, which is fine. We're pretty happy to do that. So that may be a solution to that issue. Before we get too ahead of ourselves though, we're just going to wait until the intake manifold gets here so you can see what sort of room we're working on this side of the engine, because I have found one kit which removes the alternator to this side, but from looking at pictures it's hard to see whether it's actually going to work with our intake manifold. So Rex is steamrolling along with this. He's got our mounts pretty well exactly where they're going. This is the final position. So time to bust the welder out, really. Yeah. Which it's getting pretty late in the day, but considering how much of a screw around it is to get it situated, and the jack creeps and everything freaking creeps, we'll probably just weld them up now.
Oh, I'm tacking it at least.
Yeah, tack them at least. There we go, boys and girls. Engine is sitting in on its mounts. So obviously they're not completed yet. Not only do we have to finish welding that, but we are going to put some stuff in there anyway. You'll see that. But it is exactly 10 mil. We have just 10 mil of clearance from the drag link, which is exactly as much clearance as we need. So this is as low as the engine could possibly get, the way our sump has been modified, but works quite well. So you can see that works awesome. and that is as low as we could possibly get this engine. A whole mess of work to get that extra few mil of clearance, but that's what we needed to do. A bit more progress on the mounts. So Rex is welding them sort of on top, as well as, you can't see probably through there, but through there there's another better plate that sits on top of this stock HQ mount as well. And that stops them from actually being able to sort of move, and stops the whole engine from being able to sort of rock. Sort of gives them a place to lock into.
Tiny bit of movement, but yeah, it just sits that really locates it and stops it from going anywhere.
So all that's left now is to properly weld them up and give them some paint, and that's our engine mounts. Bloody beautiful.
I like it.
Me too. I reckon the grass.
They look good.
Really great.
They almost look professional.
Almost like you know what you're doing.
Almost.
The old Miggin. Miggin.
Yeah. Don't look under there.
Woohoo!
Enough for me. There's heaps of other stuff we're going to have to paint later anyway, so
Right.
worry about it then.
Fair enough. Mounts in, welded up, look at that.
And she is just
Woo!
solid as, and these aren't tight yet, so
Yep.
yeah, it's beautiful. I like it.
Good work, matey.
Who would have thought I'd put this much effort into a Barra?
Into a Holden.
Putting a Barra into a Holden.
Come on, mate. By the end of this, you're going to love them.
The only thing I'll give this one is we're putting a Haltech in it, so it's acceptable.
6 boost goes in. So 6 boost is courtesy of Golby's race parts. They were the only ones that had this particular manifold on the shelf ready to go. Everyone else had to get 6 boost to make them that I could buy it from, and it was going to be like a 6-week wait, which we couldn't afford. So, courtesy of Golby's. Ooh. Oh, stop it. How good. So this is our G35 900 T4.8.
Who has done that?
Oh, who made a mess? It's a bit on the small side, but the fact is we're not looking to make a heap of power with this thing. So for a maximum 600 wheel horsepower, that turbo is still going to be plenty sufficient. It's literally the same turbine wheel as the 3584 RS. And I know of people, I personally know people who are making on this turbine wheel in a T3106 making well over 700 wheel horsepower in a Barra. So for something we're only shooting for 600, there was no point in massively oversizing the turbo, because if you're only going to make 600 or less than 600, you may as well make it fun and have a really nice power curve all over the place. So that's the idea, is the smaller turbo with our converter. This thing should just be an absolute menace. Should be sick. It's looking freaking awesome. Don't know if it might look a bit funny with all this space in front of the turbo. Like, it would have been cool to have like a Pro Mod style manifold that sat the turbo more up here, but then maybe that would have looked funny with such a small turbo up there as well, so I don't know.
Well, don't forget we're looking at a high man
Yeah, that'll
alternator.
be alternator and stuff
And then
potentially.
you've got your air intake somehow.
There'll be plenty of stuff to take up the room.
Yeah, we haven't put a lot in here yet, don't worry.
So now that it's up in the air, you can get a good look at our notch to clear that drag link, which is awesome. So all looking really good. So next thing on the list is to get this gearbox mounted. So Rex did some fairly extensive measuring, and where the gearbox ended up so far back on the Crossmember and the way the Crossmember is shaped, where it's high at the front and how high the gearbox had to sit on it, it was going to be an issue with the big yoke we want to have on our tail shaft. We want to put a 1350 yoke on it. As you can see, we just chucked a yoke in the back of the Turbo 400 here. It's just a standard one, and you can see how close that is to this floor brace. So you can imagine a 1350, which is going to be bigger again. It was just too close. And to space the gearbox down because of the way the Crossmember was shaped was pretty much going to mean cutting out the whole centerpiece of the Crossmember and refabricating the centerpiece. And Rex has pretty much decided that by the time you go through all the effort of doing all that work, cutting up that Crossmember to change it around, he's better off just making a new one from scratch. So that's the next thing on the list, is to make a new gearbox Crossmember. A funny little bit of information actually, which might interest is this gearbox is actually a Rolls-Royce gearbox. So our gearbox builder's been having a super hard time getting Turbo 400 cores as of late, as everyone has pretty much. And he managed to get hold of a couple of Rolls-Royce gearboxes, and they were perfect for this sort of application because he can't use the bell housing for much because they're from a Rolls-Royce. But because for these things, you've got to cut the bell housing off to put the Barra one on, it worked great. And he reckons that inside the Rolls-Royce Turbo 400 casings were so nicely done, almost like a reed case. And I guess that sort of made sense. In my mind, I imagine that Rolls-Royce would have it in their full hand-built assembly line and have people in there fully smoothing out the casing and everything inside. But anyway, just a little bit of trivia for you, I suppose. It's actually originally a Rolls-Royce gearbox, which is pretty cool. Now it's a Barra HQ gearbox. Anyway, going to be a fairly big job to do this crossmember, so get cracking on that. So Rex is getting his Gearbox Crossmember sorted. Got it all drawn up, so he's just got to go get some more blades and stuff so he can start cutting it up and manufacturing it. While Rex has been doing that, I've been sorting out these lower control arms. So we are running the factory lower control arms with our new 9-inch, and I do have some McDonald Brothers adjustable uppers on the way. Because we're running factory ones, we're going to box them in just for strength. So we just got some 3mm by 50 bar here, which will be pretty much just welded to them like that, just to strengthen them up. I've got some new bushes on the way for these, so they'll have new bushes as well, but I'll get them ready to go. Alright, they definitely bloody shouldn't break now. Nice and stiff and strong. I am going to clean just a few spots on this up with the grinder a little bit, but again, it's all underneath the car fab stuff, no one's really going to see it. Just freaking welded, but welded hardcore. We've got the bushes out as well, ready for our new bushes. So the whole grinding at your welds thing's totally a trap. It just keeps looking worse and worse and worse until I finally gave up. Anyway, I'm convinced that would look better if I just left them, but maybe I should just get better at welding. But anyway, regardless, that's our lower trailing arms boxed in, and they just need some paint and some bushes. Coming a long way.
Yeah, so where this is close to the speedo output,
give you plenty of clearance from there.
That's why I just ran this right out, so that with our pass-through device, that's what we need for the EC, for the Haltech, sorry, and then the speedo cable gives it heaps more room. And because we know, like, we're obviously only running a single exhaust, we don't have to worry about exhaust clearance here. So, and that cutout there is same height as that.
Rex made that just for you, Ryan.
That's the most I can give you, Ryan, without cutting into the floor. I'm not doing that. So.
No, it looks good.
That was a good nearly, I think it's a good 20mm. I think 25 was the cut, and then 5mm plate it back in. So
yeah, extra 20mm.
That 20mm nearly, you know, that's
nearly an inch. That's big. Just going to use some angle off the back for the actual gearbox mount. Is that the plan?
Yeah. It's spaced in there, so this is pretty much where this is going to sit. And then I was more or less thinking that's about as low as the box is ever going to be.
Yep.
There's 20mm of clearance around there, so even allowing for an extra 5mm each side on the 1350, which is generous, there's still 15mm clearance to everything. Cool. So then we can space it up, or I might even space it down a little bit. But yeah, that's the plan, is just angle off the back of there. I might even chuck just a couple of gussets.
Yep,
to strengthen
just
everything.
for strength.
And yeah, that'll pretty much be it. I reckon it's going to be heaps strong enough.
Yeah, it's bloody good.
It's overkill really, 50mm box, but
all tacked up, ready to be welded and then painted. We can paint the lower trailing arms at the same time. So another thing that we actually only thought about this morning is a tail shaft loop. So being that the owner of this car, well, this car comes from Townsville, one of his probably biggest events of the year is going to be Rocky Nuts. And Rocky Nuts scrutineering now requires that you have a tail shaft loop, and I do believe that moving forward, it is going to probably be something that begins to be implemented into most events as we move forward, because it is a pretty wild thing to happen. I've had tail shaft let go in the dyno before in an RB30 powered EH Holden, and it was not fun. I had to pull the seat cover out of my ass cheeks.
Ooh-wee. We're not fabricators.
Not fabricators.
Not fabricators.
Just bung eyes with welders.
Just a trigger monkey.
No, mate, you wrote this down. I saw it.
What do you mean wrote it down?
It was in a book. I saw it.
I did write it down. It was all wrong.
Righto, guys. So a new Bushes have arrived from Super Pro for our traction arms, so I'll chuck them in once they're painted up. Got some steel from a mate down the road, which is 4mm, so it's going to be perfect for plating back in our crossmember, as well as finishing off the gearbox crossmember as well. Rex is going to make the actual gearbox mounting bit for that. So I'll use that bit of plate to sort of plate a mount here and gusset it and have it all working. I'm pretty sure I explained in the clip just before, but while I was going and doing that, Rex had not much else to go on with. He started looking at how we are going to get our shifter to work. Started pulling apart this column and having a bit of a better look. He did find one of the bearings in the column is completely screwed. Not only that,
it's not fucked, but it's not very nice. Like, it's
not very good.
Shit.
The other thing is that the auto column, obviously the auto column has a reverse and a park neutral switch, which was broken. So Rex managed to find one, I think it was secondhand, that.
Yeah, just off eBay.
Yeah, off eBay. So managed to get another reverse park neutral switch, because the manual one obviously has reverse for the reverse lights, but being a manual, it doesn't have a park neutral switch. So had to get a new one of those, and he managed to get a bearing as well. So there's another bearing on the way. So that's going to get the column sorted, and he's just been sort of fitting up our shifter mechanism and trying to sort of see how it's going to work, where it's going to sit, and how we're going to be able to make it all happen in this car. Anyway guys, I think that's enough for this episode. Thank you for tuning in once again. Smash like, smash subscribe, share the build with a friend, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace out, see you, bye.